All right, good morning and welcome everyone to our very first Catalyst Workplace Activation Virtual Thought Leadership webinar. We are certain this will go off without any issues, but please bear with us just in case. I will introduce our esteemed guest speaker, Melissa Steach, in just a few seconds. And as she presents, feel free to post any questions in the Q&A section of the Zoom meeting, and we will get to as many questions as we possibly can. For those that I haven't met in person or virtually, my name is Dave Mason, and I am the Director of Sales for Catalyst. And I'm proud to be the host for the Thought Leadership webinars going forward and excited to introduce our guest speaker today. As an important note, and it goes without saying, the COVID-19 pandemic, along with manufacturing shutdowns around the country, have been extremely difficult for companies like Catalyst. As a result of the pandemic, the position of Market Development Director, which Angela Tomlinson managed so well, was unfortunately eliminated. We were very lucky to have Angela as a part of our team for 5 years, and we will miss her greatly. With that said, we have been working hard to reimagine these thought leadership meetings and lunches, as many of you work from your home offices. And today, we are very excited to kick off these series of webinars with Melissa Steach, the Workplace Wellbeing Knowledge Lead for the Western United States and Western Canada from Herman Miller. Melissa supports clients in both a hands-on and consultative manner, tasked with sharing workplace well-being research and knowledge on behalf of Herman Miller Group. She tends to the ergonomic and well-being needs of organizations by focusing on their greatest asset, people. Melissa is a best-selling author and award-winning fine artist with accreditations in positive psychology interventions as well as ergonomic assessment. She is also a member of the Office of Ergonomic Research Committee and holds a PhD in industrial organizational psychology. Please help me welcome Melissa.
Thank you, Dave. Hey, everybody, from wherever you are. I am very excited to present today on behalf of Herman Miller with Catalyst, and I'm very excited because this presentation is new. So I made it just for this series, so bear with me if I stumble over my own words because this is new and exciting material. And with that, I am going to share my screen and get started. This presentation is about well-being at work and how a positive approach today can set us up for a prosperous workplace tomorrow. And keeping in mind that is wherever work is. I really love this quote by Hans Christian Andersen. I came across it, and for me, it really speaks to the human body, mind, and need to have agency over our own world, and how the environment can infuse and really be infused by our own feelings of well-being. So, what is well-being, and what is well-being really as it relates to or compares to wellness? Especially now, there is a lot. We're in front of our computers. If we could have believed more than before, now more than ever. And a lot of times, certain words like well-being, wellness, ergonomics, these words are used interchangeably. So I first want to set the stage by breaking them apart a little bit. And so the distinctive difference is that well-being refers to a more holistic, whole of life experience, whereas wellness refers to the physical health alone. And so well-being is a good feeling or a condition of existence. And since most of us spend our time working, workplace well-being has become a concern for organizations intent on improving their return on investment as well as value on investment. And so what do I mean by that? Well, first, let's talk about the different aspects of well-being. The CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, defines well-being as physical well-being, economic well-being, social well-being, development and activity, emotional well-being, psychological well-being, life satisfaction, domain-specific satisfaction, and engaging activities at work. Basically life, everything, that's well-being, taking good care of it. And so how do we break apart then what is a return on investment and then what is a value on investment? Well, first, really, the differences are one could be in research, you could look at it, one as being quantitative, wherein the other is more qualitative. So return on investment are those things that we can see. We can see in dollars and cents, we can see on a spreadsheet. And so the reasons for a well-being program on the dollars and cents side would be that it can manage and reduce healthcare costs related to medical claims, workman's comp, work person's comp claims, disability data, those sorts of things, absenteeism. And then it can reduce the number of sick days, which makes it easier. That's easier for us to evaluate because either someone's there or they're not there. And then manage or reduce disability claims. And then the value on investment, it really gets into those things that very often there are things that we know anecdotally to be true, and heuristics will say heuristically, well, this must be A because that is B or whatever, but we don't know for certain, right? But we're able more and more, we're able to start gathering the data on these value on investment areas as well. And so some of the things there is that, reduce employee health risk. We know that it does, we have enough to know that it does, but it's difficult. It's difficult to manage and to measure. And sometimes we would say it's even impossible, but I feel like it's becoming less impossible, but it's still a little difficult. It can also improve employee job satisfaction. And so we're trying to gather there, are self-report surveys. There are all sorts of protocols and procedures that try to interview or capture what employee satisfaction levels might be, but sometimes it's hard to really rely on those numbers. And then it can also improve everything from productivity and morale to creativity and collaboration, safety. And this really refers to psychological safety. There's the physical safety aspect, which is, of course, very, very important. And I think in most work settings, that goes without saying. But then there's also the psychological safety. Do you feel comfortable sharing a different point of view within a large meeting? Do you feel safe in confiding in your HR representative? Those sorts of things. And then these can really have an impact on performance, on company profitability, and can really help to reduce absenteeism and presenteeism. And absenteeism is pretty obvious, but presenteeism really refers to people being at work but not really working. And if you don't work in this environment now, well, obviously we're working from home, but say when we were in our offices, there's some cultures where so long as you're in front of your screen and you appear to be working, then you are therefore working. And even if you're not being productive, you need to be seen sitting at that desk. Well, very often, Gallup especially has some interesting data around this. We found that people are sitting there at their desk, but they're looking for other jobs or they're playing solitaire. Whatever the case may be, that is what presenteeism refers to. And then now ergonomics, how is this different from wellness? Because we've now teased out why wellness is different from well-being. And why does it matter to what we're talking about in regard to well-being? Well, within an organization, ergonomics is typically managed by a health and safety team, and they're tasked with ensuring that the workplace tools, floor plans, and facilities, and the conditions that are supporting us at work are really truly doing just that and really benefiting our physical health and of course not damaging it. Whereas wellness is typically managed by a human resources team who is tasked with ensuring that programs exist to support the individual employee and entire organization in all areas of health, not just physical. And within ergonomics, there are three prime areas, and that those are physical ergonomics, cognitive ergonomics, and social ergonomics. And really these all work together to make sure that from a physiological perspective, right, our mechanical being and our cognitive being and dare I say our spiritual being are all working together in lockstep to create hopefully optimally a healthy experience for ourselves and shared experience with whom we engage day to day. And it's really important to think about this from an organizational perspective, because the research has shown that with every dollar you spend early on in the process of your workplace design or just in your workplace mandates, you yield for the dollar you spend in ergonomic interventions, you yield about $17.50 at the end of the year in terms of your return on investment. And that's pretty powerful stuff. And even as we sit working from home, think about that from the perspective of the dollars you spend every day on your own personal business, which will always be your physical well-being, your state of well-being. So whether that's the food that you eat, the rest that you get, the relationships that you nurture, the stimulation that you provide yourself, what are those small investments that you make early in the day and you make consistently throughout that yield the big returns for you? I guarantee you, sometimes it might be binging on Netflix, but sometimes it might just be a good old-fashioned nap. All right, so moving on. Cognitive ergonomics, which is, as we know about the physical, but cognitive ergonomics is really about the brain, and it's about the way that we process information. And the purpose of cognitive ergonomics in the workplace really is to optimize the fit between human cognition and our particular environment, like the office. And so cognitive ergonomics affects the way that we think and react to our environment and those around us. And so I'd like to take a moment here, and if you have something handy like a notebook in front of you, awesome. And if you don't, just think about trying this exercise, which is to draw a map of your hometown. So simple, right? It's very small thing, but really just sit for a moment and close your eyes and try to include the major streets and side streets, any local landmarks that come to your mind. And then when they're done, try, compare that map to an actual map and see what's there. What did you remember? What did you miss? And what would be even more fun is if you do this, if you happen to be safer at home with other people, maybe if you all do this together, and you'll see that you'll see how everyone remembers things incredibly differently. And for those things that may really just stick out to you and you think, my God, how can you walk past this and not even notice it's there? Someone else is like, oh, that's there, I never noticed it. And that's because we're so different in terms of our cognitive wiring and our filters, right? The way that we process information based on a slew of things that we don't have time to get into here. Now, beyond that, the benefits of that for your cognition is that the act of drawing encourages a seamless integration of semantic, visual, and motor aspects of a memory trace. So it really is activating your brain and essentially exercising it, and it's helping you to hone those parts of your brain that we rely on for memory recall. So something fun to try. And now social ergonomics is sometimes also referred to as macroergonomics or organizational ergonomics. And you might not always be conscious of it, but like we discussed, everything around us is having an impact on our behavior. Things like people, setting, even culture, the colors, the textures, the temperatures of the room are really impacting how we behave in a space, how we engage one another, how we're processing what's expected of us, what tasks should be performed, what is deemed to be acceptable behavior within the confines of that environment. And that can change based on, are you at home? Are you at a friend's home? Are you in a workplace environment that is familiar to you? Are you starting at a new place? Are you a guest? Is it a place of worship? Is it a grocery store? You get the point. And we also know that the more that we see each other, the more we like each other. So if you think back to perhaps if you worked in a building where you pass the concierge or security every morning going in, you might not know their name necessarily because some office buildings are really big, but you recognize their face and you wave and you smile. And research has found that we like people more just based on how often we see them, not even how intimately we know them. And so some things to think about in regard to social ergonomics are our relationships, how close we are to each other, whether or not we have privacy, and if we have a space we can call our own. And so a fun exercise here to try is one that is so simple, and I can't see anyone's face right now, I'm just seeing my own face, and I'll just smile at myself, but basically is to smile naturally and simply, thanks Dave, smile naturally and simply nod while listening. And it's so simple, and I like to call this compassion for curmudgeons, because I don't care how curmudgeonly you are, you may not even like people, and that's totally fine, that's your own special way of being. But if you simply smile and nod, there are several benefits to be had, both for yourself and for the person engaging with you. So not only does it make you feel happier and healthier, and it can reduce heart rates, reduce the effect of pain like an aspirin would, can really bring down stress and calm our bodies overall. And this is because smiling activates neuropeptides that fight stress by sending a message to our body that we're happy. Basically, it's dopamine and endorphins and serotonin, all those nice natural neurotransmitting drugs that get us happy naturally. So try smiling and nodding, and it's very helpful too over webinar calls. And this quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, I think is so great and so important to remember today. So when Catalyst approached me, they're such good stewards of their community, and they really wanted us to have this moment to really look at ways of how we can act as our own best agents to impart some sort of positivity and hope in regard to what it is how we're working today and how we might be working tomorrow. And it's so important to remember that control really only exists in our mind. And that's to say that we control our thoughts, and therefore, because of what we know about cognitive processes, we can control in many ways our perception and therefore our perceived reality. And this image on the right here of your screen is a really famous image. It goes by a few different names. Some call it the wife and the mother-in-law, which is, I think, the original name that the artist William Eli Hill named it. But there's also the mother and the crane, or the maiden and the crone. I'm sorry, the maiden and the crone. But basically, depending on how you look at the photo, some of you may see a maiden, some of you may see a crone. You may have only seen one and not the other until I just mentioned it to you. So this gets into positive psychology, which is really about our personal mindset and perception, and how we can really exercise our ability to manage our thoughts so that we can really create a state of mind that allows for more positive ways of being in the world and enjoying our existence, whatever it may be at the time. And so there are different, the three pillars of positive psychology are positive experiences, our individual traits, and then positive institutions. And then these all obviously come together, because you don't have any of these building one upon the other without first making the choice to see the maiden instead of the crone, or see whichever one has the more positive message for you. And now a great exercise for this is is a mashup really of three Carol Dweck, Dr. Carol Dweck, who wrote about growth mindset in her book. And I took three of her exercises and I've mashed them together, and I call them the growth goal sandwich. And it's simply, you've got one, you complete your goal, right? You have a goal that you've wanted to complete. So now you've completed it. Well, secondly, you've got to celebrate it. And you can't just celebrate it alone. You've got to, whether it's a team of two or a team of many, so few of us, especially now, I think with working from home, we're moving so fast. And I feel like many of us are stacking our calls and stacking these webinars. You've really got to celebrate with your group. And then you've got to reflect on the achievement, usually alone, have some thoughtful time around what that means, what achieving that goal has brought you. And then next, write down the new goal, because one great activity begets the next great activity, and you keep that momentum going. And so keeping a log like this each day, if you can, even for the smallest sorts of goals, will really begin to build your self-efficacy and your stamina around pushing through and committing to things and getting them done, because honestly, it's just going to feel good as you go through it, and it feels great to celebrate. So what's next in the world of well-being? And we know that there have been a lot of predictions and proclamations, and I want to also focus on the possibilities. So Herman Miller believes that there are several things, seven exactly. So we are now in the midst of this great unexpected experiment of how do we master work-life balance really? And what does that look like? And is it a balance or is it a blend? Making time literally now for FaceTime over whatever platform you have. In person, obviously, is ideal. And right now, this engagement is great, and it's necessary, and it's needed. The Amazon approach to staffing, we're seeing more and more of. Other companies are adopting this as fast as they can. Client feedback, it's fast, it's immediate, it's so necessary, it's so spot on. Having optimism around technology. And I think a lot of us are seeing how technology has been really, really saving grace in some ways right now. And then being able to have an office on demand. We have one here working from home, and then decentralizing the office. And so I would like to end on possibilities with this quote that I just really, I love this point of view from Charles Eames, who famously said that to innovate as a last resort. And I'm going to read this. He said, "More horrors are done in the name of innovation than any other." The designer and his wife and collaborator, Ray Eames, very notoriously favored evolution over revolution and iteration over innovation. And I think it's very important that in this time of COVID, with all of the unique challenges that we're facing, we do obviously undoubtedly have a heightened need for innovation, but human needs have not changed. They haven't changed over millennia, don't know that they will change. And this need for connection that we're all feeling, this need that we've been reawakened to, as many of us are noticing that we're actually waving hi to our neighbors, we're going for walks, we're spending more time with those whom we care most about and maybe see most often at home, but actually spent less time engaging with. That is being amplified, and it's so important for us to stay rooted in our sense and this new sense of spirit over stuff that we have, while we're racing forward to create the new stuff that's going to better support our spirits. And so it's the yin and the yang of it. It's the both sides of the coin. And as we move towards more healthcare grade materials and cleaning protocols that will undoubtedly be adopted, as we learn more about infectious disease control and how to get about our day in a way that manages that safely and healthily for us while allowing us to do our work, we're going to find that beyond our physicality, beyond the built environments that we inhabit, a culture of well-being that includes ergonomics and positive psychology, those really combine to really support us and to therefore support one another and our minds and our bodies and our spirit to really come together and be accountable to one another for creating, setting the expectations, creating the materials for, and really sustaining the positive and productive and the healthy workplaces of tomorrow. So if there's help in the future, there's literally power in the present, and I invite you all to take that power. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. That was fantastic. I really appreciate the statement about the need for connectivity now more than ever. It's so true. I mean, not being able to see people in person and lacking that kind of interpersonal communication is obviously lacking, and I think we're all striving for that connection piece. And thank you for articulating that really well and setting the stage for an optimistic future for all of us, we're hoping. There's one question, Melissa, that someone asked earlier. Will this slide deck be able to be shared to all attendees? Is that something you feel comfortable sending out to folks?
I wouldn't mind, except that there are no notes. It's a lot of pictures. So I will leave that up to Catalyst, and we can discuss that. But the slide deck alone, I don't know how many of the notes. I'd have to look through. So can we get back?
Well, sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. But,
oh, that's okay.
I think there's plenty of information for people to kind of glean and.
Okay. All right.
And remember kind of the commentary that you added. So
yeah, I'm happy
I think
to.
that'd probably be definitely good enough.
Okay.
But if there are any other questions, please put them in the question and answer portion at the bottom of your screen. As you do that, I want to remind you that on April 29th, we will have our second iteration of our thought leadership webinar with Kristen Reed from Herman Miller. She's the workplace consultant lead for the Western United States, and we'll be discussing the importance of trust in the workplace. So please mark your calendars on that. It looks like there aren't any more questions. So with that, we're going to end right on time. And Melissa, I just want to thank you so much for your time today. Super informative, and we really appreciate you being a part of this. And our inaugural Thought Leadership webinar.
Thank you.
We'll remember you forever. So thank you so much, Melissa. And thank you all for it. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.